Peace and praise, blessed ones, peace and praise. Welcome to The Vibe. Episode 146. Hope y'all feeling good tonight. This morning, this afternoon, this evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm your host, Blair, Care Bear. So, I'm going to get right into it. I'm not going to be long. I just wanted to come up here and really talk about some things. You know me, I like podcasts. Y'all enjoy listening to them. A lot of times I just feel like it's just a work for real. Like, I was listening to the new Roy and Mars show, and I haven't even finished looking at that episode, but they was talking about how, you know, for women, female rap, you know, they don't make it for us. So we shouldn't really critique it. Well, in some sense, I do agree. But one thing that I don't like about podcasts in general, and this is why I don't really get on here unless I have something to say. Sometimes people just be saying anything. And it made me think, like, is podcasting just a job to some people? I think it is. I know there's people who just do podcasts, but they don't listen to podcasts. I know people come up and have all these hot takes when in real life that's not really how they feel. And I understand that it is another source of income now. And I know some people are going to sound like that I'm hating. But this is kind of like the same way I feel about rap. If you're not going to be authentic, you probably don't need to do it. Because we're already in a sense of where we, everything's about money. But we have to understand the power of our voices. Like, we have, like, you got to understand the platform that you're on, and you say things, and of course you can't really control other people's, thoughts and opinions of you, but I really just want to be intentional. Like, even with me, like, I don't have a big fan base at all. I say this before all the time. But what I say, people are going to hold you to it. Because podcasts, like, if it's not a fictional podcast, because there are a lot of podcasts out here that are, just, entertainment. But when you're on certain platforms like these hip-hop platforms, where you're commentating, whether you're journaling like Vlad or Rob Markman, even like $1 Million Worth of Game. I'm not saying that they're journalists, but they're formatted that. But so people going to hold you to what you say, and they're going to stand, and they're going to hold you, and they're going to hold it against you. Like one particular podcast that I love, like I said, it says all the time, the Brilliant Idiots. You know, they lean more on two men speaking on topics they might know nothing about, have no education about. They're called Brilliant Idiots for a reason. Like, they use it to kind of like negate the fact that, you know, they have a voice and they have power. Charlemagne more than Schultz maybe, but Andrew Schultz is a big comedian now. I mean, he's like, you know, one of the top comedians in this generation. I mean, I don't put him up there with Martin or the Eddie Murphys and, you know, the Wayans, but Andrew Schultz is he has a voice in the comedic space. And I understand comedians, they might have a little bit more grace than people who like are serious. Like, you know, you have Charlemagne, Joe Budden. You know, these are hip hop guys, moguls, I should even say. And I'm not even gonna put, you know, Joe Budden and Charlemagne in the same category, you know, as Andrew Schultz. But like when we talk about radio, then we got podcasting, then we got broadcast television. Excuse me. We have broadcast stations like ESPN or CBS or TNT. I mean, these are like internationally recognized television networks. But if I'm just sticking on podcasting, you know, to me, and maybe because this isn't just like necessarily a hobby of mine, like I really want to speak to the listeners and tell them, like, hey, we can play around. Like, if we're talking about something unserious, I mean, we can be unserious, but, you know, hip hop is, you know, entertainment. I understand, you know, and I understand that there's a certain level of seriousness that hip hop is. But hip hop has it coming down to like entertainment, to where, you know, not everybody's going to be serious, but guys like I said, like the Breakfast Club or Roy Mall, or even like I mentioned before, you know, Rob Markman, you know, these guys, you know, regardless of what space they're in, you know, their voice is held to a different standard than, you know, maybe me. Like, I'm a fan, but I'm also like, you know, I'm a writer, but like, so I'm not out there in the public eye. I'm not like I'm a public figure, but not to that level. I don't have that notoriety. So even when you listen to like DJ Academics, you know, he's been doing this for years, and his voice, he has a voice. And even though you might not be a fan of Castanado, listen to Castanado. There's like Castanado has a voice for other people. So a lot of times we have to realize what we say. Like, if you're gonna have an authentic opinion, have that. If you're gonna have just a particular take, where it's just a hot take, and you're like, hold on a second. So this is the type of stuff that I don't really like. I need to find a space where I won't be interrupted or doing things because, like I said, I do all this stuff myself. But anyway, I can't stop seeing you. Though I'm deserted, I know you did me wrong. I appreciate people who put up with my mess. So, like I was mentioning, hip hop is something that's a serious genre of music, and I understand there's people in here that don't really take it serious. Like so I'm not gonna sit here and knock artists who aren't really lyrical or really up for the culture. I mean, there's a lot of artists, big artists who they benefit from it, but they don't really know the history of it. And even one thing that I wanted to say, this is something that I particularly wanted to say, is that battle rap, I mean, that's part of the culture. Hip hop started in the Bronx and at a house party. So the two-step and the b-boy, all that stuff is originally. The scratching, that's original. The microphone checker, that's original. Graffiti, original. Even battle rap, with the ciphers. Like, even when you was doing ciphers, a lot of people wasn't battling. But I want to say we got to really get the negative connotation out where hip-hop has transcended. And hip-hop has transcended where we got artists like Drake, artists like Lil Yachty, artists like Jay-Z, Nas, they have brands. They had brand from, the culture. And even Lil Yachty, like I mentioned, like he's a newer guy. I'm not a fan of Lil Yachty, but, he, like I said, he has a business acumen to where he solidified himself. Travis Scott. I can go on and on and on, but the thing is, like, even with battle rapping, I'm not saying battle rapping the genre, but just like when people do their beef, like I'll use Drake and Kendrick as an example. People made fun of J. Cole. When I said this before, people made fun of J. Cole for making a diss record on Kendrick Lamar and then taking it back. He didn't fail back from it, but he didn't necessarily say it. There's it might not be on I might delete later project, but there's people who still got that record. It was a great record, and I'm gonna be honest, and I said this before, I might have said it before on the previous podcast multiple times, but regardless of whether J. Cole meant it, that was the best record out of the whole back and forth between Drake and Kendrick. And Drake kind of like copped out of it, but it wasn't touching the spirit, and people made fun of him for backing out. And one thing I always say is that J. Cole and Kendrick, they're friends from my understanding. They're friends from my understanding. They wasn't like Drake or Kendrick. I think Drake was like more like he had a lot of people turned their back on him. Something's going on with Drake to where everybody kind of like started like doing like this, because like I said, Kendrick Lamar one of Kendrick Lamar's most popular records, Poetic Justice. Drake was on it, and even on Drake's album, Take Care album, Over My Dead Body, that's Kendrick was on that. But I'm just tired of these narratives that people will pick and choose what's good and what's not, because when you start calling people pedophiles and start calling people, women beaters and stuff, it kind of goes beyond like, okay, if this is true, then you gotta pay for that. But if you have some information, if you had this information all along, why you ain't say nothing? But if it's not true, then it's defamation, and then you have to you're gonna have to see me. Drake's gonna have to see Kendrick. Kendrick's gonna have to see Drake. And just off the love and strength of hip hop, people was enjoying it. And then when Drake starts suing, oh man, that's not hip hop. You can't be doing that. But we gotta remember, words mean things. I'm just tired of the, people try to justify one thing, but then make fun of another thing. Cole was right. When the fall off drop, it's gonna come, and then I think he's about to drop a very important album. And me as a Kendrick fan, me as a Drake fan, me as a Cole fan, like me as a hip hop head, I don't really subscribe to those narratives where it's like, okay, these battles are necessary. I can understand, we had people talk about the LL and Cannabis. People talk about the MC Shan, and they were talking about the KRS-One, and people talking about all that. But it's like, yeah, that was part of what they was doing back then. And even though hip hop might have, I'm not even gonna say it came from that, but there was just a lot of artists who was doing that. Say, yeah, I'm the best. Nowadays you don't really necessarily have to prove it, but when you have to defend yourself, you gotta be a man. But we gotta think about the context. Like I said, this is like hip hop started before I was even born, so I'm not gonna speak on the whole the whole backstory on these rap battles. So like I used to watch the Beef DVDs. Like a lot of them was just like strictly just musically. Even when Nelly and KRS-One had a little thing, and because again hip hop was in a different space now, Nelly, they would say Nelly won that, and the thing with LL and Cannabis, people will say LL won just because of the name. So it's different things. Like LL, he's a superstar. He's a movie star. So even with him still, coming in and out, coming and rap every so often, he's solidified. So LL and KRS-One are two different artists, but like KRS-One, he's like I said, he's a pioneer, but he wasn't like Rakim, KRS-One, MC Shan, like these guys. They didn't continue to go like with like they didn't have like multiple. KRS-One did, yeah, but what I'm saying is he didn't get the commercial success as a LL, as a Nas, as a J, but he did pave the way for them. So what I'm saying is, hip hop can thrive without the battles. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, LL Cool J wasn't even like a battle guy. Like he's battle tested. Like I said, I mentioned the Cannabis thing, but it's like he wasn't rapping for that. Like he didn't. His career wasn't based on that. So we got to understand, like there's a lot of artists who don't necessarily have to do that. And even going back into like the reason why people, was, like Drake make great music. And he like I said, he had reached a level of Jay just as far as like music and stuff. I don't necessarily know like his business side, but you know, he's a legend. Kendrick Lamar is a legend as well, but it goes back into where it's like, okay, Kendrick is more legendary on a lyrical side. I feel like he can rap better than Drake. And Drake can rap for real. But Drake make better music, better songs. You know, Drake, like, he doesn't have he has a couple conscious records. A lot of people probably won't give him those credit, but you know, the song about his mom, you know, there's a few others I just can't think of off the top, but like we have to just kind of remember that this is what we wanted hip hop to be. We wanted people to take hip hop more seriously. We wanted people to kind of like respect that genre. You know, when NWA and you know, like I said, the East Coast West Coast beef, hip hop at that point was maybe 20 years old, close to 20 years old. So it was still new because it didn't really hit mainstream or commercial success until like Run DMC came out in the 80s. So it was like still fairly new, but you know, hip hop's still the youngest genre, and even though we're like the biggest culture in the world, in the name of Jesus, please. Like, I don't know if we be taking it serious like we should, especially with the beef stuff. Because I'm like, if it's real, stuff's gonna pop off. But if it's not, and it's just for entertainment, you gotta watch what you say. And that's the same thing as I feel about podcasts. I'm like, people just be like, you know, express your opinion, say what you want to say what you feel and stuff. I mean, we can all joke and make fun and stuff, but like, we have to start picking and choosing what this isn't. Like, this isn't hip hop, then saying something else in hip hop. Because music is expressive, and hip hop is, you know, the authentic. That's the authentic culture. That's the authentic brand. That's the authentic genre. So when you start getting into like domestic violence and pedophilia and you know, abuse, it goes beyond hip hop. You know, part of it, like, that could be that, you know, all that matters what Father said. Rape, mind your manners, sometimes hide your hands. Life is like a game of abuse. Life is like a that's beyond hip hop. Despite the use, you can't lose yourself. That's the only way to God's promise. But going back again to what I said earlier, because that's just something that I'm pointing out. That's beyond hip hop. That's not hip hop. You know, just because you're expressing yourself on record doesn't. Just because you're expressing yourself on record doesn't mean that that's hip hop. But if it's reality, then I guess it's gonna have to be reality. But that's just something that I wanted to, you know, say. I'll probably have to do a more detailed episode later, but I just wanted to come up here and say that, you know. My project, Satan Sexy, is now out on all streaming platforms. Y'all continue to listen to and stream. I can't sing. I write my rhymes. More songs I can't sing. In Loving Memory. Spit. There's more projects I'm dropping tomorrow. Love is power. Power is love. Love is Power.
Yeah.
Love is Power is dropping at midnight tonight. Make sure y'all stream it. But as always, stay safe, prosperous, productive, and positive. This is Blair. I'm out.
Dear blessed ones, if I die today, never forget what mama said. All that matters what father said. Mind your manners, sometimes hide your hands. Life is like a game of cards. Life is like a box of chocolates. Despite the use, you can't lose yourself. That's the only way to God's promise. God got me, I'm God.